I didn't grow up expecting softness from my parents, but I still hoped, just a little, that becoming a mother myself would make them treat me differently. I thought having a child in the house might flip a switch inside them, might melt all those cold ridges in their voices. But it didn't. If anything, it made things worse. It gave them a new target. My son, Caleb, 8 years old, quiet, gentle, the kind of boy who says thank you to cashiers and picks ants off the sidewalk so no one steps on them. He never deserved the way they looked at him, like he was a stain someone forgot to scrub out. Mom never called him by his name. She always muttered, "That boy," like his existence was an inconvenience she never signed up for. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. The morning everything started unraveling, I was sitting at the kitchen table counting the last of the crumpled bills I'd saved from my part-time night shifts. I'd been putting aside anything I could, tips from the cafe, a few bucks from weekend cleaning jobs, trying to scrape together enough to buy Caleb new school shoes before the semester started. His old ones had holes in the soles so big I could see his socks through them. He kept stuffing folded paper inside just to keep small rocks from stabbing his feet. I finally had enough. I felt proud. Tired, but proud. Caleb walked into the kitchen, still rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Mom, did you save enough?" he whispered, like even asking was too much hope. I nodded and kissed his forehead. "Yeah, baby. Today's the day." He lit up. That boy didn't ask for much. Shoes were a luxury to him, not a right. I hated that he'd learned it that way. We took the bus to the outlet store because that was all we could afford. He held my hand the entire ride, swinging our arms like he used to when he was 4. I could tell he was trying not to show how excited he was, afraid he might jinx it. When we walked into the store, the cool air hit us and he froze at the entrance like he'd stepped into heaven, rows and rows of shoes. His eyes went straight to a pair of blue sneakers with little lightning bolts on the sides. He picked them up like they were glass. "Are these too much?" I shook my head. "Try them." He slid his feet in, stood up, bounced twice, and whispered, "They don't hurt. They don't hurt at all." I wanted to cry. That's what he'd gotten used to. Shoes that hurt. I paid for them with the money I'd folded and refolded in my pockets for weeks. When the cashier bagged the shoes, Caleb clutched the bag to his chest like it was the most precious thing in the world. The bus ride home felt warm, calm, like maybe, for once, things were going to be okay. But calm never survived long in my parents' house. The moment we stepped through the front door, Mom's voice came tearing out of the living room. "What's that?" she snapped, staring at the bag like it offended her. Caleb shrank behind me immediately. I answered carefully. "School shoes. He needed them." Mom stood up from the couch and marched toward me, her face tight and cold. "With what money, huh? With my roof over your head? With my electricity? With my water? You think you can waste money on him while living for free?" "We're not living for free," I said quietly. "I pay what I can." And he needed proper shoes. That was the wrong answer. She snatched the bag straight out of Caleb's hands. He froze like he'd been shot. "These?" she hissed. "These are what you wasted money on?" "They're for school," I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. Mom pulled the shoes out of the bag, held them up, then looked at Caleb with that same look she always used, like he was a stray dog that wandered into her house. "This," she said, turning the shoe in her hand, "is too nice for what he is." "Grandma, please," Caleb whispered. And then it happened so fast I didn't even have time to breathe. Mom walked to the kitchen drawer, pulled out her big meat-cutting scissors, pressed the shoe flat against the counter, and cut straight through it. The sound, the tearing of new fabric, felt like she was cutting through my chest. Caleb screamed, "No! No, Grandma! Please!" Mom sliced again, through the second shoe this time, ripping the lightning bolts right off. Bits of blue fabric flew onto the counter like confetti for a celebration nobody wanted. She turned toward Caleb, holding the shredded pieces in her hands like trophies. "Walk barefoot," she spit, "like the stray you look like." My son's knees buckled. He collapsed on the kitchen floor, grabbing the pieces, trying to put them back together as if love could fix shredded cloth. And Dad, who'd been pretending not to watch TV, finally turned around. He took one look at Caleb crying on the floor, then smirked. "Should have saved the money," he said, scratching his belly. "That boy was born to crawl, not walk." I felt something inside me snap, quietly, like a small thread that finally broke after years of being pulled too tight. Mom tossed the shoe pieces into the trash can as if they were nothing. "Next time," she said, pointing a finger at me, "ask permission before you throw money away on that creature." Creature! She didn't even see him as human. Caleb crawled toward me, shaking, clutching one of the ruined lightning bolt pieces in his hand. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make her mad." That sentence nearly killed me. "You didn't do anything wrong," I whispered, pulling him close. "Enough," Mom snapped. "Stop coddling him. You make him weak." "He's 8, I said. "And he acts like a stray," she shot back. Dad laughed. "Barefoot is good training, toughens the skin." Their voices blurred together, sharp and poisonous, like they were speaking a language I wasn't part of. I held Caleb's trembling body against mine and stared at the trash can where the shoes lay shredded. Something inside me hardened, not poetic, not symbolic, not quiet, just solid, cold, determined, because for the first time I realized they weren't just bad grandparents, they were a danger. And the danger wasn't going to stop unless I stopped it. Not with silence, not with guilt, not with forgiveness. Something real was coming. Something that would make them regret every bruise, every insult, every cruelty they'd ever handed to me or my son. And they weren't ready. Not even close. That night, Caleb slept curled against me like he used to when he was little, his small fist still gripping the torn lightning bolt patch. Every few minutes he whimpered in his sleep, his legs twitching like he was trying to run away from something in a dream he couldn't escape. I lay awake listening to him breathe and staring at the ceiling, replaying everything over and over, the scissors slicing, the smirk on Dad's face, Mom calling him a stray. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept flexing my fingers like I was trying to squeeze the rage out of them before it swallowed me whole. Around midnight, I stood up. Something inside me had settled, heavy and certain. I wasn't going to let them break Caleb the way they'd broken me. Not now, not ever again. In the morning, the house felt too quiet. That was never a good sign. Mom was in the kitchen, tapping her mug on the table like she wanted someone to ask what was wrong. Dad sat on the couch with his legs stretched out, blocking the walkway like a guard dog who didn't even bark anymore. The moment Caleb walked in behind me, Mom rolled her eyes. "Did you put that boy in the same clothes again? God, he looks disgusting." "He's fine," I said. "No," she snapped, pointing her mug at him. "He looks like cheap laundry. No wonder no one in this family wants him around." Caleb dropped his gaze to the floor. It hit me harder than anything she said. Dad grabbed the remote and clicked the TV louder. "Don't start the drama again. You're teaching him to cry over everything. That's why he acts like some stray mutt begging for scraps." That word again. Stray. Caleb's breathing hitched. I stepped beside him. "Don't talk to him like that." Dad barked a laugh. "I'll talk how I want in my own house." "It isn't your house," I shot back before I could stop myself. "It's the bank's. You're 3 months behind mortgage." The room went dead silent. Mom stood up like someone had pulled a string inside her spine. "Watch your mouth." "You don't get to insult an 8-year-old to feel powerful," I said, ignoring the way Dad's eyes narrowed. "Not anymore." "You think you're strong now?" Mom snapped. "You're nothing. You always were. And that thing," she flicked her hand at Caleb, "is even less." Caleb's chin trembled. My throat burned. Then Mom walked to the trash can, pulled out the shredded shoes, dangled the pieces in front of my son, and said, "Look at this. This is what you deserve." Caleb turned away so fast that he bumped into the counter and dropped the little lightning patch he'd been holding. It fluttered to the floor like a dead butterfly. I crouched down immediately to pick it up for him, but Mom stepped on it first. She twisted her heel on it like she wanted to grind it into the tile. Something inside me snapped, but it wasn't an explosion. It was clarity. A cold, sharp, terrifying clarity I didn't know I had the capability to carry. I stood up slowly, keeping my gaze level. "You know what?" I said, my voice low. "You're right." Mom's smirk grew. "About what?" "That this isn't your house." Dad shifted. "What are you talking about?" "And it won't be for much longer," I finished. Dad stood up, chest puffing. "Don't threaten us." "I'm not threatening you," I said. "I'm informing you." I walked past them and headed to the spare room, the one they'd forced Caleb and me into like we were oversized luggage. I pulled out the folder I'd been keeping under the bed, a folder filled with documents I'd collected quietly for months. Bills, mortgage notices, letters they'd hidden, letters they were ignoring. They pushed everyone in that house around, but not the bank. And the bank was days away from pushing back. When I walked back into the living room with the folder in my hand, Dad's face drained of color. Where did you get that?" he asked. "Your drawer," I said. "You're not the only one who can go through people's things." Mom lunged forward, trying to snatch the papers, but I stepped back. "Don't," I warned. She froze. "You're behind," I said. "Way behind." Dad swallowed hard. "It's none of your business." "It becomes my business when you take out your failures on an 8-year-old, I replied. "You break him because you're scared. You hurt him because you're losing control." Mom's face twisted with rage. "Give us those papers." "No," I said. "Not until I've said what needs to be said." Dad moved like he wanted to hit me, but stopped halfway. He'd never feared me before. The fear was new, cold, delicious. "You've treated us like trash our entire lives," I said. "You've called him a stray, a creature, disgusting. You cut his shoes apart and told him to walk barefoot like an animal." Mom hissed. "He might as well." Caleb shivered behind me. "And now," I said, raising the folder, "I'm going to show you exactly what happens when you forget who you're stepping on." Dad's voice cracked. "What are you going to do?" "The same thing you do," I said, leaning closer until he stepped back. "Hit where it hurts most, but legally, properly, loudly." Mom's eyes darted to the walls, the windows, the front door, like the house was suddenly shrinking around her. What does that mean?" she asked, her voice suddenly thin. "You'll understand tomorrow," I said, "when the knock comes." Dad's face tightened. Mom's hands trembled. Caleb stepped closer into my side like he was walking toward warmth after months of cold. I looked at my parents one last time. "I'm done begging for space in a house you're about to lose," I said, "and I'm done letting you hurt my son." Mom tried to speak, but no sound came out. Dad's jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. For the first time in my life, they didn't know what to say. For the first time in my life, they looked scared of me, and I wasn't even close to finished. The next morning came with that heavy metallic silence a house gets right before something breaks. I was already dressed, Caleb sitting on the edge of the bed with his backpack, watching me like he knew something big was coming but didn't know what. I kissed the top of his head, squeezed his shoulder, and walked to the living room. Mom and Dad were already awake, sitting stiff, eyes red like they hadn't slept at all. Good. Before either of them could talk, there was a loud knock at the door. Not gentle, not polite. A hard, authoritative bang, bang, bang. Mom flinched. Dad froze. I walked over and opened the door. 2 officers stood outside with clipboards and notices. "Are the homeowners present?" one asked. Mom stepped forward. Why are you here? We didn't call—" "This is regarding unpaid mortgage," the officer said flatly. "We've been trying to reach you for months. This property is now under final seizure review. You have 72 hours to vacate unless arrangements are made immediately." Dad's face collapsed. Mom covered her mouth. I didn't say a word, not yet. The officers handed the papers to me because I was the one who had confirmed the appointment yesterday. I passed them to my parents slowly, watching their hands tremble like they'd touched fire. Why would you do this?" Dad whispered. "You brought it on yourselves," I said. I didn't hide the notices. I didn't ignore the calls. I didn't pretend the debt wasn't real. Mom stared at me with horror and disbelief mixed together. You wanted this? I wanted you to understand consequences, I said. You wanted to crush an 8-year-old boy over a pair of shoes. Now you get to feel what real pressure feels like. Dad sank into the couch, papers shaking in his hands. Where will we go? Not my problem, I said. But Caleb and I? We're leaving now. For good. Mom reached out suddenly, grabbing my arm. Wait, please, don't go. We didn't mean— Don't touch me, I said sharply, pulling away. You meant every word, every insult, every cut, every time you called him a stray. Caleb peeked from the hallway, backpack on, eyes wide. I held out my hand to him. He ran straight into my side. Mom choked on her breath. Please, don't do this. You already did, I said. I walked out the door, Caleb's small hand curled into mine like a promise. The sunlight hit his face, warming the bruised pieces of him they'd tried to break. He looked up at me. Are we really leaving? He whispered. Yes, I said, and we're not coming back. Behind us, the house door slammed open. Mom yelled our names. Dad begged. Something heavy crashed onto the floor, but Caleb didn't turn around, and neither did I. I unlocked the car, helped him inside, and started the engine. As we pulled away, the officer stepped inside to begin the inspection. Mom stumbled onto the porch, sobbing. Dad leaned against the doorframe, helpless, small, defeated. For the first time in my life, they were the ones left barefoot. And the child they called a stray finally rode away with someone who chose him instead of destroying him. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.